So as I mentioned earlier, like art has been used in protests and general things like that throughout all of history, pretty much, right? And the biggest way to actually create, or the most popular way, sorry, the way to create a piece of art for a protest or just to speak your mind, right, is to make a sign. These are really common even today. They could be as simple as just like a marker to a big piece of paper, or like elaborate murals with paint and all these things on the sides of buildings and stuff. Okay, but I wanted to break down what exactly you needed to think about when you're making a sign, right? Some of you guys probably already know this like intuitively, but here I'm just going to be putting it into words, right? Number one, um, what do you want to say on the sign? So what is your overall message? Okay, number two, how can I grab people's attention using only visuals, right? So like, how do I stylize it to make it look more interesting? Remember, the goal is to, as soon as someone sees it, grab their attention, and then get them to actually read the words by with that attention, right? And then how do I make sure people can see it, right? If we have a sign that's like this big, most likely your audience is most likely either really close to you or I don't know, ants, right? We got to make sure that it's big enough so that people can see it from far away, um, if possible, right? So the message, when we think about that, we want to use as few words as we can, right? If we have a bunch of words on our sign, then you actually end up, one, making the words smaller. It's also, two, harder to read because it's kind of similar to looking at a letter, right? If you print out a letter, there's just so many words on that piece of paper that it all becomes jumbled and it's really hard to see it from far away. Okay. Um, when you're using when you think about stylizing, right? How do I grab people's attention? You want to use large text. So few words, large text, and you want them to be big and bold, right? If it's really small and just like pencil thick, people from far away can't see it, right? It's also not as interesting if it's just like super thin. So big and bold. You also want to stylize it, right? Some people are really good at like cursive. Some people are good at making block text, which is what we're going to be learning actually. And like I've seen some of you guys like do that like dripping look on some of your artwork, right? That's something that you can do to make it stylistically interesting. Um, so, and last, how do you really advertise it? These things go up in protests, right? They go up. You hang them up at a certain place, and then anyone who passes by can see it, right? That's kind of like what a flyer is. You can, people post the signs on social media, and social media, everyone can see it on that if they're following you. And or you can really just like give it to someone who can do any of the things that I told you about, that I told you just now, right? So anyone who goes to protest, anyone who can go hang something up on like the side of a store or something, right? Or you can like give it to a store and they can put it up on their board. Or if you know anyone with like a bunch of followers, they'd probably be more effective at posting their sign than if you had posted it with only like 100 or 200 followers, right? So those are the things you want to think about when making a sign. What's the message? How do I stylize it? And how do I advertise it?